Hi, Johnny Red here. I've been following Colin Flaherty for a couple of years now. He had built up quite a number of subscribers here on YouTube before he was banned. Over 50,000, I think. Anyway, he's over at minds.com now, and several people have been posting his videos here on YouTube besides me. Check out Barrel Tap, The Great Dolomite, and Truth is Undeniable. I'll have links below to their channels. I've noticed that the stories of black on white violence have been coming more and more frequently, often several per day now across the country. What Colin documents is probably only a small fraction of the total amount, as he can't possibly know all about all incidents. He only knows what people report to him, and I believe he also monitors some major news outlets from big cities. If we heard about all the assaults, murders, carjackings, home invasions, and rapes by blacks nationwide every day as they occur, we would be appalled. I'm shaken and appalled just by what I hear from Flaherty. So, for those of you who still say white people do it too, or they do it just as much, I'm going to throw up on the screen some crime stats here for you from the FBI. Okay, here's the first one. Murder and manslaughter rate, 2016 crime data. Blacks, 12.37. Hispanics, 2.54. Whites, 1.42. That's about a 9-time difference. 9-fold difference. Rate per 100,000. Next we have aggravated assault per 100,000. Blacks is 254.34. Whites is 65.68. That's at least a 5 times difference. A 5-fold difference. We're not talking like 50% more or 100% more. We're talking 500% more. That's a huge difference. Okay, rape per 100,000. Blacks 13.57, whites 4.55. It's about a 4 times difference. 400% more. In New York, which is probably representative of a lot of major cities, the murder rate for blacks is 30.9. 1 for whites. 31 times more arrests of black people in New York than whites. And as you can see, for all the other categories, robbery, rape, felonious assault, grand larceny, and especially shootings, 98.4 to 1. Now some people argue that blacks are arrested more because of discrimination and racial profiling. Okay, well, I'm going to show you another screenshot here that shows that that's really not the case. This is from the FBI, and it is where the race of the offender were identified. Okay, so the race of the offender identified as black, and it's compared with the number of black arrestees for each of these offenses. And as you can see by the chart, the dark blue is the offender, and the light blue is the arrest rate. In most of these categories, there are more black offenders than there are black arrestees. There's a few categories where the black arrestees are a little higher, but in the vast majority of cases, blacks are arrested at a lower rate than they are committing the offenses. So there's no evidence of discrimination here at all. Now when you talk about interracial violence, it's also very lopsided. Here's a chart that shows, this is from 2010, which there's no reason to believe it has changed since then. If anything, it's probably gotten worse. Blacks were the victims of white violence 62,593 times. Whites were the victims of black violence 320,082 times. Again, that's over a 5-fold difference, 5 times, 500% more. That's pretty lopsided. No one can say that whites are committing violence against blacks at anywhere near the rate that blacks are committing violence against whites. And those are absolute numbers. It's even more lopsided if you consider that blacks are only 13% of the population and whites are about 62%. This is what Colin Flaherty is talking about when he says that black violence is wildly out of proportion. The following is a clip from one of his recent videos from over on minds.com about how Apple and the media in general, and now including the social big tech giants, are trying to suppress this kind of information that Colin puts out in his videos. and he gives a bunch of very recent clips. I mean, these stories are coming in fast and furious now. I mean, every day there's more.
So the other day, I go to open up my iTunes, my Apple podcast app on my iPhone. I needed to check one of my recent podcasts, and it was gone. My podcasts were gone. Apple just took them down. I mean, the way it works is somebody just calls up Apple. They send Apple a message saying, hey, Colin Flaherty's a bad person. He's documenting black violence wildly out of proportion. And then he even goes around telling everybody that reporters and public officials and lots of other people are in denial, deceit, and delusion about it. And since democracy dies in darkness, we cannot have Colin Flaherty going around saying bad things about reporters, how they completely screw up stories on racial violence. I mean, this morning I opened up the paper, opened up my web, and there's a big seminar at Yale University next couple of days at the dance show that's memorializing all the violence visited upon black people. Have you ever been to where Yale University is located in Connecticut? That is a dark and dangerous, dirty city. Every single person that goes to Yale, every single teacher, professor, medical student, medical professor, they know that. We've done tons of stories connected to Yale University. Black on white violence, black on Asian. Tons of black on Asian violence. Lots of Asian people wandering around the campus, on and off the campus. They are targets. And yet somebody at Yale, and lots of people at Yale look at that and go, you know what? It's really, we really got to do a story about how black people are victims of white violence. We got to do that. That's how sick they are. That's how twisted they are. Everything up is down, down is up, black is white, white is black. That's Yale University. That's the people at iTunes. And so so if you watch these videos, you know that. I know that, you know that, we know that, but this is how we are fighting that. We're fighting that by we're staying the course. I'm going to fight, there's still lots of places to get my podcasts, by the way. I now get my podcast at iHeartRadio, or you can get them at Stitcher. Lots and lots of places, podcast directories where you just go in and you enter my name, Colin Flaherty, White Girl Bleed a Lot podcast, and bingo, bango, boongo, you subscribe and it'll come whenever I release them. I'm going to start doing more podcasts. But this is our life. Our life is fighting this, resisting this, drawing attention to the greatest lie of our generation. And every time you feel like stopping, you probably feel like stopping watching these the way I feel like stop making them sometimes. We come across a batch of stories like this sent to me in just one day. I mean, there's probably another half dozen out there I just haven't had time to get to. Last couple of days, people send me these things. Black on white murder.
The wife of murdered pawn shop owner Brandon McCann spoke with THV 11 only after the murder suspects appear in public.
They had their first court dates this morning in Jefferson County. THV 11's Erica Ferrando was in the courtroom today.
Daryl Strickland and Rodney Henry, both 21 years old from Camden, are being held without bond in the Jefferson County Jail. Today, Brandon McCann's family saw them face to face for their first court appearance.
It was very hard to see them in that room, but it was more mad than sad. But in a way, just to see the small two human beings that took my husband's life is just ridiculous. It's a life for nothing.
Sitting in the front row of the courtroom, Miranda McCann watched as the two men police arrested for killing her husband faced the judge where no bond was set.
That's exactly what we wanted, and I praise God every day. Thank you. And Brandon, we're praying for you every day, baby, and we love you. Love you.
Brandon McCann was shot and killed November 12th while working in the Pine Bluff pawn shop he owned. After allegedly killing McCann, Daryl Strickland and Rodney Henry are accused of robbing a Pine Bluff gas station an hour later.
I would just like to thank everybody possible to bring this case closed. This happened really fast.
Strickland admitted involvement in the murder. He told detectives their intention was to rob each location for cash. Henry denied involvement to detectives.
Here's a story somebody sent me a day or so ago saying, Colin, how did we miss this one? Black guy goes into a gas station in Jeffersonville, Kentucky, kills the owner. Bing, bam, boom. Who gives a damn? This happened a couple weeks ago near York, Pennsylvania. Guy goes into the gas station, robbed it, killed somebody. He didn't feel like leaving witnesses. What's up, my brother, Mark Ellis? Why'd you kill that guy, Mark Ellis? Why'd you kill Sonny Arnott? He was just a guy trying to make a living. Got up every morning, went to work, paid his bills, took care of his family. Now he's dead. And you're not. That doesn't make any sense to me. That's why we're going to keep doing these videos. Okay, here's one just happened in Cleveland. Store clerk shot to death in shootout at liquor store in Cleveland's Glenville neighborhood. Okay, this is what we call East Cleveland. This is the black part of town. This is Indian country, no man's land, no-go zone. Especially if you're white, especially if you are a business owner. Whenever I think of this part of Cleveland, I think of that the 40-something-year-old couple. They owned a car dealership, a small car dealership, one of these places that, it looks like a gas station, but it was an old gas station. They converted it to have maybe 15, 20, 25 cars on the lot. They started calling the cops going, hey, we're under attack here every day. We are under attack. Cops didn't do anything. The news people came out. The lady goes, listen, we're under attack. It's like, they were like a block or two from the formal boundary of East Cleveland. She's going, we're under attack. They won't do anything. We're in danger here. A couple weeks later, even before that TV station had a chance to air that clip, a couple of fellas came in, killed them, stole a car. That's East Cleveland. If you go to Cleveland, you talk to people about Cleveland and their town, which I did during the Republican National Convention. Everybody likes it. They like it up there. They're very excited about Cleveland. But then if you go, hey, what about all the argy-bargy over in East Cleveland? They go, oh, no, that's not Cleveland. No, that's not Cleveland. What are you talking about, Colin? It's not Cleveland. That has nothing to do with us. The denial, deceit, and delusion runs deep among the boosters. Okay, here's another one. Kelso murder suspects. A couple of fellas shot this chick. I mean, you think if you knew more details about what actually happened, how it happened recently, do you think if you knew more about it, that would help you understand it? Same with this one. Police release new surveillance image of one of the men sought in the killing of BPAM's food market worker, Stacy Childress. Second verse, same as the first. 10th verse, same as the first. Here's a story out of Rio Linda, which I think is in California. This fella got all pissed off at an 85-year-old man who parked too close to him. So he went up and punched him in the face. He got 10 years. 10 years. That's all he got. I don't even think they charged him with murder. I think they charged him with something like, assaulting a person over 65. Punched in the face, the guy falls down, breaks his head, dies. 10 years. Wow. Why don't we just finish up with this one? For no other reason. It's not like we're finished with the stories. It's just like, no, I'm kind of just finished with them for now. Because when I go back to my email later on this afternoon, we're going to have a ton more of these. So at some point, we just have to stop and say, hey, let's just stop here. 4 men are charged in the murder of a store clerk in Southwest Houston.
Johnson, just one of 4 suspects accused of killing the 66-year-old clerk at Sonny's Food Mart last weekend.
Earlier this afternoon, 3 other suspects tied to the same crime made their first court appearances. Eyewitness News reporter Marla Carter is following this still developing story and tells us that these suspects may also be tied to other robberies.
Hafiz Qureshi was a father of 5, a grandfather, and beloved in his community.
And so now people at Apple, they want to take my iTunes podcast down, which they did, which you can still get lots of other places. They think that's going to help if we stop calling attention to this Holocaust out there. And so this is kind of a reminder for you what role you play in this whole process. This is a reminder for you, if you are in a position to like these, share these, tell your friends about them, send them an email. That's what you have to do. Get on my email list. Go to colinflaherty.com and sign up for my email list. You'll see how to do it when you get there. There are people, no matter what else happens, if we are connected through email, we can stay connected. But I mean, one day somebody in Apple just snaps their fingers and the podcast is gone. I'd like to think all of our other stuff is secure, but that's not the way this world is working now. If this stuff's important to you, if exposing the greatest lie of our generation is important to you, get over there, sign up for my email. Sign up for the podcast. Drop a few pennies in my PayPal cup.
Please, sir. I want some more.
You know, they're not mad at us because we're wrong. Good, how easy would it be to show I'm wrong? This would be the easiest channel on the planet to shut down with facts, if they existed. Here, Colin. Here's 5 videos. Here's 5 stories in the last year of people, white guys going into convenience stores and killing the clerks in there. Yeah, Colin. See? White people do it too, Colin. What? We never get that, though, do we? We never get that. Today, somebody is, lots and lots of trolls, their favorite thing to do is to send stories. And I always know what the stories are going to send before they send them to me. You go, Colin, what about this? I look at the story. It's 1919. Yeah, 100 years old story. What about that, Colin? You said this doesn't happen. 1919. And it's all part of some divine retribution for something that may or may not have happened in 1919. And the weird thing is the same people who say there's nothing happening today, there is no black on white violence today, there is no tsunami of black violence and white denial today, the same people who say that, they're the same people who are writing articles about what happened in 1919 or 1944 or 1955. And so it's really hard to find an honest broker for any of this information, historical information. Because telling the truth about history is the same as telling the truth about the present. If you do it the wrong way, you're going to get a lot of black kids angry.
But the vast majority of people in this country are still completely clueless about the epidemic of black violence that's happening here in the United States. This is because the media don't report on these incidents nationally, only locally. Only a very few receive national attention, and the stories that do are skewed so as to make it seem that, for instance, most mass shooters are white, whereas actually most mass shootings are committed by blacks. Most people who follow Colin know how the media cover for, make excuses for, and minimize black crime, especially black on white violence, which, as he says, is wildly out of proportion, by which he means that it's 5, 10, 50, even 100 times that of the white on black rate. We're talking orders of magnitude of difference here. This is the biggest hoax, the biggest lie of the century, and it is profoundly dangerous for white people. There are large areas of most cities that are literal no-go zones for white people, and often for Asians as well. There are no such zones for blacks. There is no place in the country where a black person cannot walk down the street unmolested, harassed, or assaulted. There are countless such areas for whites. Colin rightly calls out the denial, deceit, and delusion of the mass media when it comes to black crime, but he doesn't get into the reasons why this is. Why do the media go to such great lengths to portray blacks as victims of a white supremacist, racist system? Why do they call gangs of violent black youths just teens? Why do they so often omit race in the description of suspects? Well, the reason, of course, is it doesn't fit with their narrative. The mass media has long been controlled by people who are, shall we say, sympathetic to and in agreement with the ideas of Karl Marx. Even back in the 1950s, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, the author of the Gulag Archipelago, said, quote, "The global media is in the hands of the perpetrators." He meant by that, in the hands of communists. That was even back in the 50s. These rich, mostly Jewish international bankers, who were behind communism and the Bolshevik Revolution in the first place, had enough influence even back then to get the United States involved in World War I, which made J.P. Morgan very rich. They got the U.S. into World War II by deceit also. See the video on the U.S. entry into World War I, link below. And then read The Hidden Tyranny by Benjamin Friedman, a Jew who saw their machinations of deceit from the inside during the period up to and following World War I. That is linked below also. Communism, or Marxism, has had its tentacles embedded in our culture now for over 100 years. Marxist ideas of egalitarianism had begun seeping into anthropology departments since the 1920s as the result of the tireless and deceitful efforts of Franz Boas, an admitted Marxist, to eradicate what he called scientific racism from our culture. His torch would later be taken up by Stephen Jay Gould in the 1970s and later. A few videos on this are linked below also. This communist cabal and their sympathizers, useful idiots, have been running this country for many decades and were in the last stages of consolidating their power in media, academia, and politics when the internet happened. This threw a monkey wrench into their plans. Truths long suppressed began to be discussed, and the deceptions of the Lusitania, Pearl Harbor, and 9/11 have become widely known, though still not mainstream. Scientific research on the genetic basis of intelligence, also vigorously suppressed by academia and the media, has also come to light via the internet. Check out the link below, 30 years of research on race differences in IQ. Download the PDF while you're at it, since such facts are politically incorrect and will likely disappear from Google and go down the memory hole in the near future. The social media giants have been trying frantically to push the genie back into the bottle by trying to ban all views in opposition to their narrative. Unfortunately, they are having some success. They control the purse strings of all major corporations and government. This includes payment processors, MasterCard, Visa, PayPal, Stripe, Patreon. Chase Bank just informed Henry Tarrio of the Proud Boys that his personal bank account will be terminated, shut down, because of his political beliefs. There's a link to that story below. People are waking up. Help it happen by spreading this video and the ones linked below. Truth is what is now called hate speech, but we will not be silenced. Thank you.